when certainly we are really pleased to have Jessica with us as our guest speaker and have Wendy and Karen joining in on this. So thank you for making time, as well as our other longstanding members. We'll go ahead and get started. We're just going to do a real quick recap of the recent events that we've had. Just if you weren't able to attend, there's Doug in all his glory. Heather is maybe, and Doug, why don't you just go ahead and tap in and explain what happened at the governor's visit and why Heather was the recipient of an award.
Well, in this photograph, we see Valerie Brown Klingelhofer, the district governor, whose job to which I aspire. And she's on the left, and Sergio Rosas, our current lieutenant governor, on the right. And Heather received a fabulous Hickson Award as a result of her service for the liaison with our service leadership program at St. Augustine, the Key Club there. And it's a very great honor. She was able to come in and accept that award. And this is the governor's visit, where representatives of all the clubs come, and frequently some fabulous awards like this are passed out.
Well, we're so proud. Yeah, so proud of what Heather does for us with that service project, and very well deserved. And I'm sorry she's not here today to hear all of our praise, but we'll be sure to send it to her. All right, another event we had was on June 6th, the breakfast. We were downtown at our regular location, and the guest speaker talked about the Battle of Midway. Carl, you were present for that.
I was not, sorry to say.
Oh,
I was in
Jeremy was there.
Jeremy, do you? Yeah, of course, there he is. And
the Japanese lost again, I understand.
Yeah.
He was an amazing presentation by him.
Yeah.
Yeah, I learned a lot about a lot of that stuff that I didn't know. Kind of ashamed to say I wasn't even sure where the Midway Island was, or the atoll. Fascinating. And he was kind enough to extend to us a private tour coming up. You'll see in a few minutes, to come down to the Midway at 8:30 on Saturday, the 1st of July, and he'll give us his own private tour of the Midway. So we'll touch on that. But in this collection of photos, you see some of our members and our new member, Emily Moberly, getting pinned. And that was a nice morning. Another recent event was the Bay City Brewing. Karina, you're going to have to tell us what happened there.
Well, I warned everyone that there was a Padre game, and apparently scared everyone away. So just Doug,
except for the hardcores.
The hardcore, the A
Doug,
team.
Mike, and Ruby still made it out. It's a very cool rooftop. If you are in downtown San Diego, I didn't even know it existed. And they have amazing pizza and wing specials. So definitely recommend it. And we still had a good time, even if it was just the 4 of us.
We'll have to check that out. And then on June 17th, for Just in Time for Foster Youth, headed up by our friend Gordon, a great service project to help some of the new home recipients to help kind of get their houses pulled together. Let's see, do we have anybody from that's on the call?
Brittany's on the line.
Oh,
I think she
You
was.
want me to share about the event?
yes, please. I'm sorry,
Sure.
Brittany. Hello, welcome.
Hi, thank you. Yeah, we had a wonderful event on Saturday. We did a ribbon cutting for our distribution center that has been redone thanks to Kiwanis with a $25,000 donation. So it was really awesome to see the revamp. And one of the major things I thought was really cool, in addition to like we have a new bathroom, but we got a tool shed that's lockable, and also toolkits for our youth. That was something we didn't have before to give them. And as you probably all know, those can be really expensive. Just to have, they get all this furniture for their house, and then they want to put things on their walls, and then they don't have tools for it. So that was a really awesome addition. And so we helped the participants shop for brand new items, which most of those items were donated by Kiwanis as well. I think there was over $9,000 of that was new items that was donated by Kiwanis. So what happens with that is our My First Home coordinator usually purchases those things from Target. So things like dishes, pots and pans, towels, sheets, all of that is new for our youth. So it was really fun to go around with them and have them choose all their items and then pack up the truck and move them to their apartments. So it was a really wonderful day, and it was awesome to see the funds go to such a great cause.
Oh, it's really rewarding to see these youth that have had, maybe some different kind of upbringing than some of us have experienced. So it's so nice to have just in time helping them. How many on average would you say a year participate in this program where they get their first home and go through this process?
I don't know. We serve about 2,800 youth a year, but a lot of them do go through our My First Home program. Usually it's like our youth, a lot of times when the youth are new to our program, they'll do it. They can do it once every 2 years. So I don't know an exact number, but definitely in the hundreds, if not up to 1,000 a year, for them to be able to furnish their homes. And the requirement is just that they show us a lease and a roommate agreement. So that way they have these items that stay with them. So that's the main eligibility requirement.
Yeah, that's amazing. Lauren, you have a question, and hello, welcome.
Hello. It wasn't a question. It was more just several of us were there too, and it was pretty great. Actually, we're in this photo now, I noticed. But it was really great because that evening, the young lady that I had been helping shop and do things that day, she was texting me pictures of where she'd put everything. And she, not only did she shop, but we shopped, and then my job was done. They loaded all her stuff, and then they took her stuff to her place, loaded it all in for her. But then those guys stayed, and she's like, in the end, they fixed all this wires that I've been asking housing to do, and they said they fixed my, she had several, honey-do lists around the house that, she had been not able to do. And those guys stayed and fixed that. And she was just thrilled. And, she's like, and now I know some people in Cali. So I'm going to keep texting you. And I'm like, you should, because I'm going to keep texting you. So it was a really great day. I really enjoyed it.
Oh, that's wonderful. Thank you. And thank you, Brittany, for giving us a summary of this amazing project. The Kiwanis is so delighted to support such a special program. Thank you. All right. The moment we've been waiting for. Carl, would you please introduce Jessica?
I would be happy to do that. Thank you. Jessica Cleaver has been a water resources specialist with the San Diego County Water Authority since 2021. She's worked for water providers in the San Diego region for the last 10 years. In her role, she works on regulatory policy and water use efficiency issues. She also coordinates funding support for local water supply projects such as recycled water and groundwater projects, and is secretary of the Water Reuse Association's San Diego chapter. So we're delighted to have Jessica here and give us an update on what the status of water is in the region. And I'll hand it over to you, Jessica.
Thank you so much, Carl. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen for my slide presentation. So give me just one moment to get that up and running. Okay, hopefully you're seeing that. I'll get it into presentation mode. All right, can everybody see my slide okay? Great. All right, thank you. So yes, my name is Jessica Cleaver, as Carl already mentioned. I'm a water resource specialist at the San Diego County Water Authority, and we're the wholesale water provider that provides the majority of the region's drinking water supply. I really appreciate you inviting me to speak today. I'm honored to be addressing your group and to have the opportunity to tell our story and also important information about our regional water supplies. Today, I'm going to provide a brief overview of the Water Authority, as well as some information on how the San Diego region has become a model for drought resiliency and how we're continuing to prepare for the future. And then, of course, I'll be happy to answer any questions you might have. To the best of my ability, I always have to say, because inevitably there's usually someone that stumps me and I have to come back, but I will follow up with an answer to your question afterward if that's the case. Before I begin, I'll just take a quick moment to introduce myself. You already got a bit of my professional background, but I also want to say I really appreciate the work Kiwanis does. I'm delighted to see you mention just-in-time foster youth, the Water Authority's employee charitable giving committee. We just recently selected them as well as to be recipients for some of our fundraising projects that we have through the year. And I think that's a great organization. And for the Kiwanis Club specifically, I was actually the recipient of a scholarship from Kiwanis Club about 20 years ago. So it's kind of a full circle moment. That was to help, you know, a college scholarship, help pay for my education. And yeah, so it's great to be speaking with you all today. But enough about me. Let's go ahead and talk about water, the reason why we're all here today. So for those who aren't familiar, the Water Authority is a wholesale water provider for the region, and we were created back in 1944 by the state legislature. We have a board of directors that's composed of 36 members, and they represent our 24 member agencies. And those member agencies include cities, special districts, and also Camp Pendleton. Our region that we serve has about 3.3 million people located in a $268 billion economy. And you can see on the map here, the member agencies themselves in our service area. We deliver water to them through over 300 miles of very large water pipelines. We're also responsible for the long-term water supply planning and preparation for the region. Here's a quick breakdown of our water use demand by sector. So we can see that by far, residential is the main demand sector, and that's followed by commercial, industrial, and institutional. But I also want to note that we do have 8% agriculture, especially up in the northern county region. And San Diego is a unique region because we don't have very many natural water resources like groundwater, and we also get very little annual precipitation for surface water. So most of our water is imported. At this point, about 75% is either imported from the Colorado River or the State Water Project up in Northern California. And I will say that those numbers that break down between Colorado and State Water Project does vary from year to year, depending on the annual water supply outlook. But last year, for example, when there was virtually no State Water Project, it was all Colorado River. This year, as we'll go into in a little bit, there will be an increase in State Water Project water because of the additional water that was received up in Northern California. But overall, the total is about 75% that's imported. And we have to reduce our dependence on that imported water. It's been one of our main priorities over the last 30 years because we want to build a diversified water supply, as that's critical to building a reliable and drought resilient water supply. In recent decades, we've successfully diversified the supply from where it was because we made strategic investments by our residents, businesses, and member agencies to create innovative infrastructure projects that I'll be talking a little bit more about shortly. So now with those investments, we're up to about 26% of our water supply being from local sources, and those include seawater desalination, advanced water purification projects, also called potable reuse, recycled water or purple pipe from irrigation, surface water from stormwater runoff, and then to a lesser extent, groundwater. And this supply diversification was the result of 3 decades of planning using what's called a water portfolio approach to managing our drinking water supply. And that ensures that even during tough times, our water is always there when we need it. And this is important because it wasn't always this way. So back in the early 90s, San Diegans were at risk of running dry due to our large reliance on a single imported water supply. And the region was required to cut back water use by over 30%. And that really impacted our region's economy, including the agriculture that I mentioned up in North County, and also the, at the time, very young biotech industry was negatively impacted. So our local leaders vowed to make sure that that doesn't happen again. And thankfully, with the changes that I'll be discussing, running out of water isn't a problem in San Diego County today like it is in a lot of other parts of the state. So we learned that no single resource strategy is going to be able to manage all of the uncertainties. Instead, we had to take that portfolio approach to diversify our water supply sources through infrastructure investments to increase our local supplies and reduce the need for imported water. And in part, that's what our water bills are paying for. They're helping us pay for having a safe and reliable water supply when there isn't very much water to go around. So now we'll go ahead and take a closer look at some of the investments and some of the future investments for our region. So one of our most important investments, and it's often overlooked, is our conserved water supplies from Imperial County. Back in 2003, the Water Authority and 5 signatories completed a historic set of agreements to conserve and transfer Colorado River water to our aqueduct system. And the key components of that agreement included what's called a conservation and transfer agreement with the Imperial Irrigation District, and also water that's conserved from concrete lining of portions of the All-American and Coachella Canal project. So we can see in the image here the lining project taking place. So that those additional supplies make up about half of our total water supply, and that's about 280,000 acre feet of water a year, which is a lot. One of the reasons why this is so important, in addition just to the quantity, but also is that these are our lowest cost supplies. So they're really critical to balancing the cost of those more expensive local supplies like desal and advanced water purification. So then in 2014,
Jessica, can I interrupt? Could you
Yes.
explain on each of those two things why the water was conserved? I mean, the lining kept the water from going into the surface, and the fallowed fields is the other one, right?
Right, yes. So we have the conserved agricultural runoff, so reducing the water use of the agriculture, and then also reducing the seepage in the canal. And so that totaled the amount of water, that was basically conserved because of those investments is the water authorities, basically, as a result of those changes.
The farmers were paid to not plant on their fields is the basic of the conserved agricultural runoff, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
And what are the canals lined with? Is it plastic or some kind of a resin? What is it?
It's a concrete lining. I don't know a whole lot about the material, but it's some sort of concrete material.
Thank you.
But if you want the specific information, we have a Colorado River program that I can check in with them. Like, what is that material exactly?
I think it's just concrete, guys. I don't think there's any magic to it.
Oh, okay. Okay, so the San Vicente Dam raise is the next project we'll highlight. This was completed in 2014, and it is actually really important because it is part of our emergency and carryover storage project, which provides water in case we were to experience cutoffs from our imported supply due to a catastrophic emergency, or even major water supply cutbacks. So we have a series of reservoirs that are part of this system, but San Vicente is the largest. And by increasing the height of the dam by 117 feet, it was the largest dam raise of of this type in the world at the time, and it more than doubled the storage capacity of the reservoir. So it added an additional 157,000 acre feet of water. And I know I mentioned acre foot before, so to kind of help visualize what an acre foot is, it's one football field, approximately one football field covered in 1 foot of water is about 1 acre foot. It's also about the amount of water that could serve 3 households per year. So an additional 157,000 of those was added by the dam raise project. And again, very important as it's the biggest component of our emergency storage project in the county, which also could provide, I didn't mention, up to 6 months of water supply if we were to be cut off. And then the Claude Bud Lewis Carlsbad desalination plant. This was a landmark public-private partnership that meets about 10% of the region's water demands. We worked with a private developer called Poseidon. They built the plant and they also built a 10-mile conveyance pipeline to convey that desalinated water to our aqueduct system to be distributed to our member agencies. And this project provides about 54 million gallons a day of fresh drinking water throughout the county. And then we have potable reefs, which is also referred to as advanced water purification. And that is the next phase in water supply in our region. So collectively, throughout our region, we have a few projects in the works or that have recently been completed, and they're expected to bring online more than 100,000 acre feet of drinking water in the next 15 years. So the first one is Pure Water Oceanside, and this was actually completed back in May of last year. It's the first potable reuse project operating in San Diego County. They provide 3 million gallons a day, which is about 20% of the city of Oceanside's water demand. And the water comes from the city, or sourced from the city of Oceanside San Luis Rey Water Reclamation Facility. And then the city of San Diego has its own project in the works called Pure Water San Diego. And this is actually the city's largest ever infrastructure program. And it's intended to provide about half of the city of San Diego's water supply by 2035. So that's a huge portion right there. And then, of course, the East County Advanced Water Purification Project is East County's version, and that project began construction last year and will end up producing up to 30% of East County's drinking water supply. So that's a brief overview of how we have been and are continuing to work on diversifying our water supplies. And this is a really great graphic that shows the progress that's been made and that we're continuing to make. So we look back in the early 90s when we were in a dire situation, to be honest, and you can see that we relied pretty much exclusively on that imported water. And now in 2022, we have a much more diverse supply mixture. And as we continue and more of these potable reuse projects are added into the mix, by 2045, our water supply will be at 631,000 acre feet. And because of those investments, we'll have sufficient water supplies for dry years and even multiple dry years. And speaking of dry years, drought has been in the news a lot again. Last year in particular, the Metropolitan Water District had several had districts in its service area that were experiencing significant shortages. The state water project was only able to deliver 5% of the water that was requested of it. So those water agencies that were relying strictly on state water project water had to use bare minimum levels called human health and safety levels, and that's all that they were limited to. So they had really severe water use restrictions in place. They actually even requested to the state, they said, due to increased fire risks, can we please have some additional water for that? And the state denied it because there just wasn't the water available to give. to work with this, they actually had to, or some of the water districts installed flow restrictors in homes of customers who are using too much water. So that ends up greatly reducing, how much water they can get. Thankfully, that wasn't happening here in San Diego. We were fortunate to not have had to endure those kinds of shortages because in the diversification in our water supplies. However, if those investments had not been made, we would have found ourselves in a very similar situation last year. The story was actually very different here in San Diego. We were recognized as ground zero for innovation in water supply management, and we intend to keep it that way. Our diverse water portfolio approach was recognized in the New York Times, the Wall Street Journal, and Yale Environment 360. And the New York Times said that San Diego County's try everything approach to getting water has emerged as a good model for cities. So while we always promote water use efficiency, and we continued and even ramped up promoting those messages of being water efficient and applying for device rebates, et cetera, and using climate appropriate landscapes, cutbacks were voluntary. There were no mandatory cutbacks. And then as we were coming to the end of 2022, everyone in Southern California was facing the possibility of actually having water supply restrictions because the situation on both the State Water Project and Colorado River were not looking good. But we ended up seeing an increase in atmospheric rivers that had a really positive impact on water supplies. And the state was able to raise its projections. So the amount of water that they can deliver from the State Water Project for the first time since 2006 is 100%. So 100% of the requests that are made, they'll actually be able to deliver this year. However, people do assume sometimes that once we have a nice wet year, that's the end of the drought. But it is a lot more complicated than that. Yes, we do have plenty of water for 2023, and there's no restrictions on the horizon, but the rain that falls in San Diego County is just a very small portion of our water supply. And really, even if we look at the snowfall in the Sierra, yes, we had great snowpack this year, but because of the drought, the soil is drier, and so it's absorbing more of that snowpack, and also with warmer atmosphere, it also evaporates more of the snowpack, so less of it ends up making it to the reservoirs than what we would have historically modeled. So drought is complex like that. So science is suggesting that we're going to continue to be dealing with these long-term hotter and drier weather trends for decades, but they'll be punctuated by these intense periods of wet weather. So we're going to be kind of swinging from one extreme to the other. And so these dry years, or these wet years, are basically going to buy us some time to prepare for the dry years. And we also have to change how we plan for water supplies from the way we used to historically plan. Instead, now we have to develop, obviously those drought resilient supplies for the dry years, but we also have to figure out how we can capture water when it's available during the wet years. So we're kind of having to pivot from the way we've always done things. I say we collectively, the whole state.
Jessica, it might be helpful to say at this point to remind people that we've been in a drought pattern since 1999, and punctuated by those wet years. It used to look like wet years and then drought, wet years, then drought. And I think the scientific consensus is that we're in a long-term drought pattern that, as you pointed out, fortunately, we have wet years that help us get through the dry years.
Right. And we have to figure out how to maximize on those wet years. But yeah, the term, I feel like I butcher it every time, so I didn't bring it up, but it's aridification. But that's basically what is believed to be happening in the West, is that it's becoming a more arid climate. And so, yeah, we've had this decades-long drought now with a couple moments of reprieve, but the trend is supposed to continue. So our work is not done by any means. moving on to the Colorado River, as that's also been in the news a lot lately, and I know this group is interested to hear an update. So the river serves 7 states and 40 million people. It also serves tribes throughout the Colorado River Basin and throughout Mexico. And there's 2 major reservoirs critical to the river. They're called Lake Powell and Lake Mead. So similarly, over the last 20 years, drought and climate change have led to declining conditions on the Colorado River. However, this year, kind of repeating the story, but we've been fortunate that thanks to near record snowpack levels, it has provided a reprieve from the dire conditions that we've been experiencing. So this year's snowpack is expected to greatly benefit both of the reservoirs, Lakes Mead and Powell. And the releases from Lake Powell and Lake Mead are expected to be over 9 million acre feet this year, which is, excuse me, an increase of over 2 more than what they had, what the Bureau of Reclamation had projected previously. And it's supposed to increase the elevation of Lake Mead by about 20 feet by the end of the year. And while that is positive news, again, one great year isn't enough to solve the challenges of climate change. So the Bureau of Reclamation is looking for near-term actions to bolster the river through 2026, at what point the current set of guidelines to manage the river are going to expire. Those were from 2007. And so now California's river supplies are largely protected because California has senior water rights on the river. And importantly, San Diego Colorado River water supplies are further protected because they carry the highest priority rights within California because of our water transfer agreement that we discussed earlier with the Imperial Irrigation District. So along with looking at the near-term actions, long-term consensus-based solutions are going to need to be needed to manage the river in the future. And the Bureau of Reclamation has started the process of looking for those solutions. Just last week on June 16th, they formally announced the beginning of the process to develop the next set of river operating guidelines. And those are being referred to as the post-2026 guidelines, since those 2000 guidelines will be expiring in 2026. So here at the Water Authority, our staff are closely tracking this process and are fully engaged with the other basin stakeholders to make sure the next set of operating guidelines best serve California and continue to protect our region's Colorado River supplies.
Can I add something, Jessica, or maybe ask you, because you know the answer,
Maybe.
Historically, 15 million acre feet of water was allocated every year from the Colorado River. So you're saying it jumped from 7 to 9?
Yes. So, well, releases from Lake Powell to Lake Mead had increased from 7 to 9 for this year.
Okay. I was looking for context for what I mean. It sounds like a lot that it raised 20 feet, and it did give us a reprieve for the next year or two, but it's the Colorado River still in a pretty tough shape.
Yes, definitely. This is, again, something where it's kind of bought us a little bit of time. By the end of the year, there were talks about, all of Southern California having to restrict water because of the situation on the Colorado River. And so, yeah, this is kind of just putting that off for a little bit, but there is an agreement. I'll be honest. So we have a whole department that's just the Colorado River. So, and I don't work in that department, so I did reach out to them for some information, but that's a whole wealth of knowledge that is not my strong suit, unfortunately. But I do know there's been a conservation agreement made among the lower basin states to agree to conserve. It was approved by the Bureau of Reclamation, I believe, agreeing to conserve even more Colorado River water, and a portion of that is going to be incentivized from the federal government, and then another portion of it is going to be through voluntary conservation efforts, again, which is achieved by things like public outreach, rebate programs, landscape transformations, education, So where people are choosing to make changes that result in water savings rather than like mandating you can only water 2 days a week or something. So there's a conservation agreement that's been made again by those lower basin states to help conserve even more, even though yes, this year the level is going to increase 20 feet, but that's not, going to be enough for us to just pretend like there's not a problem.
Right. And one other, I think I'm correct in this, is that San Diego doesn't really have any water rights at all to the Colorado River. The Imperial Irrigation District has the highest level of rights, and we're purchasing water from the Imperial Irrigation District until what, 2046? Is that when so we have access to their rights, but San Diego doesn't have any rights in the Colorado River. The next level of rights come down to the Metropolitan Water District, which is the secondary source of water for us now. And they have rights, but San Diego does not.
I believe you're correct in that. And that, yeah, the reason why our water is protected is because of that agreement with the Imperial Irrigation District that does set to expire in so many years. I can't remember exact number of years.
It's 2046. That's all right. It's
Yeah.
still out there a ways.
Right. And I don't know, again, because that's not my department. I don't know what the talks are as far as what will happen at that point, if they're going to be, extending agreements. That I don't know, and I would have to definitely reach out to that department for. But yes, the protection of our water supply on the Colorado River is due to that Imperial Irrigation agreement that we have with them. Very right.
Thank you.
Okay, so turning a little more locally again, in addition to protecting and diversifying our water supplies, conservation is also a key part to our region's success. So as I was also referring to, making some of those voluntary changes to conserve. So thankfully here in San Diego, it has become a way of life in a large part, thanks to countless investments that have been made over the past few decades from not just the Water Authority's member agencies, but also just from all of our residents and businesses. So we can see here on this chart that our region's reduced per capita water use by more than 40% since 1990. We've been a leader in water use efficiency over the past 3 decades. And fortunately, through combined efforts, it's solidified our resilience to drought, and we're continuing to work to make sure the trend continues. And as far as our, projections show, people are going to continue to become more and more water efficient. But there's always more ways to save to help safeguard our future. Residents and businesses can do this by taking advantage of the rebates and resources that are available to upgrade their landscapes and indoor fixtures and appliances. And the Water Authority and its member agencies are going to continue to look for innovative ways to diversify our supplies through large conservation projects like potable reuse. I do want to take a moment to highly recommend watersmartsd.org for information on both commercial and residential rebates that are available to help save water and money. We have rebates on landscape transformation projects where you replace grass with more water efficient plants. We have device rebates for indoor and outdoor devices like toilets, washing machines, irrigation controllers, rain barrels, and many more. And these are both commercial and residential. There are also free on-site water use evaluations where a specialist comes and visits your property and performs an evaluation service, makes customized recommendations on how your property can be more water efficient. And then we also have a lot of educational opportunities on that website, including that we have in-person and virtual workshops and a really cool program called Designer at Your Door for those who are interested in making those landscape transformations, but want some additional guidance from professionals. And it's all free, so I highly recommend it. There's pretty much something for everybody there. And then in addition to water use efficiency, new tools and technology for climate resilience are also key to success going forward. One of the big areas where we're investing right now is new science and management tools to make the most of the water that we get from atmospheric rivers, since those have been increasing. And the next step to get from where we are now to where we need to be is new legislation called Assembly Bill Assembly Bill 30, and that was sponsored by San Diego County Water Authority and Sonoma Water, and it will give us more high-tech tools to make the most of extreme shifts in rain and snowfall from our changing climate. Assembly Bill 30 is introduced by Assemblymember Chris Ward of San Diego, and it would make breakthrough water management technology a standard for the State Department of Water Resources. So the tool that would be required is called FIRO, or Forecast Informed Reservoir Operations. And what that does is it uses climate predictions to inform dam operators how much water to retain or release from reservoirs. And a recent study that was conducted up in Northern California showed that it did result in additional water storage of 20%. So it does work. We've partnered with the Scripps Institute of Oceanography and also the Center for Western Weather and Water Extremes to make a commitment to look for new and innovative ways to improve our water supply management. So there's a lot of new technology available. And like I said, we have to kind of change things from the way we've always done and look at some of these new resources that are available for us. And we're coming in for a landing here. I have just a couple of slides left. I wanted to share this slide. This is a cartoon from the San Diego Union Tribune, and it shows the San Diego region as a prepared leader through strategic planning for water conservation and supply reliability, thanks to the decades-long diversification strategy. So gone are the days of relying on just one, maybe two canteens, and instead we have a whole portfolio, as we say, of options to help guide us through the future. Okay, but our job is not done. In the months and years ahead, some of the key areas we're going to be focusing on are supporting our member agencies with their local water supply development projects, also continuing to plan and prepare for uncertainties in the future, making sure we're developing the workforce to ensure that the water keeps flowing, and also focusing on ratepayer protection and affordability. This is a big issue, and many people might not think about it, but another way that we try to keep water bills as low as possible is by keeping the regional water system in good shape through preventative maintenance. And also, we play an important role in advocating for state and federal funds and programs to control water rates. One way that manifests itself is through advocating for grants. So a lot of those infrastructure projects were significantly funded through grants to help offset the impacts to ratepayers. And then we're also lobbying for a share of federal infrastructure funds from the historic infrastructure investment package that the president signed in 2021. I know Kiwanis does a lot to support youth and career development, so I also want to take a moment here to plug a relatively new website that the Water Authority and its member agencies have created. It's called SanDiegoWaterWorks.org, and it's a comprehensive posting of regional water and wastewater industry job openings. It also features information about internships and training opportunities, which is great for those who are interested in entering the water industry or maybe are just getting started. And I also want to take a moment to say that there's a wide variety of jobs in the water industry. You know, there's those jobs that the first place people's mind goes to, but that's quite limited. There are engineering, public outreach, finance, of course, operations and maintenance, IT, cybersecurity, environmental, and even general counsel, plus many, many more. So there's, I can speak personally and say, you know, I've been in the industry for about 10 years, and I think it's a great industry to work for. It's an important cause. And over the next few years, we're definitely going to be needing some fresh new talent to join the workforce. With that, thank you so much for giving me your time today and inviting me to speak. One way you can stay on top of regional water news and events is by subscribing to waternewsnetwork.com. That's the Water Authority's award-winning news website, as well as we are on pretty much all the social media platforms. You can follow us there too for important updates. And I'm happy to answer any questions, again, to the best of my ability, and if I can't, I will make sure to stop sharing here to follow up. All right, great. We have, so I'm not sure, should I call on people or, okay.
I'll just shout out. In the Pure Water SD project, I recall, was involved in some sort of litigation with San Diego Gas and Electric. Has that been resolved? Are you in a position to comment on that at all?
Okay, I'm probably not in a position to comment on it. But I actually recently was in a meeting where we had an update from San Diego on the project, and I know that that is moving forward. There was some delay there. I don't recall or if they went into the details of what the resolution was, but I do know that they're able to move forward. But there was a little bit of a delay.
The City of San Diego project, Doug, not a water authority project, so there wouldn't be in their bailiwick other than to know if they get information about it, I'm sure.
Yeah, and
Thank
maybe
you.
someone in our, maybe someone in engineering or something knows a little more, but I do know that they did mention that, and they just kind of talked about it as a little bit of a back and forth. They didn't go into a lot of details, but to just kind of say that they're moving forward. So sounds like they figured it out. I don't know how. Okay, Lauren, yes, I saw your hand up.
I raised my hand appropriately,
Yes.
just so everyone noticed. So my question is, I did notice, like, I'm super interested in the desalination plant. I mean, and that was a big deal at the time. Well, it still is, frankly. So I noticed though, when your chart went to years on down the road, it doesn't look like maybe that the percentage of what would come from a desalination plant. So it doesn't look like we're building another one. Is that what I'm reading on that chart? This is pretty much it for us?
Yeah, so I'm not aware of any plans to create a new desal facility in San Diego. I know there's some, that have been proposed in other parts of the state, but in San Diego region, I have not heard any plans of additional ones. I will say it's obviously a really great resource. Desal is a little bit complicated though. It's obviously expensive, energy intensive, and there's a lot of environmental considerations that need to be made too. So it's great because it's super drought resilient, but it's definitely not an easy project to create more of. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, no, I grew up on an island and that's all we had, just all these plants, but also it rained every day. So, that's a little bit than a desalination in a drought area is very different than on an island where a lot of them happen to create, pure drinking water. So anyway, I was just curious because I noticed that stat didn't change. Thank you.
Yeah, yep. At least in our 25-year outlook, we don't have any new desal. We'll see what happens after that. And Susan.
My question was kind of tied into Lauren's, and that was like, what is the cost effectiveness of desal versus the potable reuse program comparatively in costs?
Yeah, so one thing I'll say before going into a little more detail. So the desal is obviously it's Poseidon, it's a private company, but the water authority has the agreement with them. So it's quote unquote, the water authority is water, where those potable reuse projects are all member agency projects. So it's a little different in that way in calculating the cost because it's coming, two different agencies or many different agencies. But so each of those potable reuse projects are also going to vary a lot because they look different. So for example, City of Oceanside's is it's called indirect potable reuse, and that treated water then actually gets injected into groundwater basins, and then the groundwater basins end up getting used for water treatment after they go through the water treatment process. So then there's some, like the City of San Diego's, that's going to be treated and go to reservoirs, and then those reservoirs are attached to their water treatment systems. And then there's some in the future that could be a little different from that. So each of those also vary. But so it's kind of hard to speak to the individual costs because each one of them costs different because there's so many different factors. But one of the nice things, I don't know if I'm supposed to say this, but I used to work for some of the member agencies too, before I worked here. And so there is benefit to the member agencies to have some of their own supplies as well, and to not be 100% reliant on the water authority. Again, don't tell anybody I said that.
As a reminder, Jessica, I am recording this. So
Oh,
be
thank
careful
you.
what you say.
But I mean, so there's a reason why some of the member agencies do have their own supplies, right? So they can have a little bit of independence on how they do things. So there are differences there as well.
Well, thank you, Jessica. I want to I'll pat ourselves on the back for having been so brilliant some time ago to give you a scholarship, because
Yes.
you have, which is
Thank you.
awesome. So well done, Jessica. Congratulations on your role there with the San Diego County Water Authority, and the presentation was really thought-provoking. Thank you so much for sharing this important information about our resources.
Again, I really, really appreciate the opportunity. I really appreciate the scholarship. And feel free to share my email address with the group if people have follow-up questions. Some of those items, of course, I might have to look into a little bit to get back with you, but I'd be happy to answer more questions that way too.
And of course, we'd love to have you as a member of our Kiwanis Club, our Young and Emerging Leaders Kiwanis Club.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, we'll make sure Judith sends you some information so you can consider it and be a regular face on our Zoom calls or in person.
That sounds great. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. All right. Okay, Judith, we're going to rush right through some birthdays. I know Justin may still be on our call. His birthday was just a couple days ago. Also, our friends David J, Eldon Thompson, Ryan Callan, everybody celebrating. I think they're what, Cancers or Leos or something. I don't know their astrological sign, but you can see them. Make sure you remind them to make a birthday donation to the Kiwanis Club to share the love. Speaking of sharing the love, we have bills, bucks, and fines. So would anyone like to share something and make a donation in honor of your good news or challenging news?
Well, I think I should find Carl, because he just had a pretty important interview, and it'd be really easy for him when he did the interviews to at least put a little Kiwanis pin on his collars. So, or, even mention Kiwanis, but there was no mention and no K's nowhere. So I just think that there should be something that Carl puts into the pot, because you would think when you're going to be seen by so many that you would want to know that you're a proud member of the Kiwanis San Diego. But sadly, I guess we just have to do more to earn Carl's, stamina and wanting to put us out there. So Carl, do you have anything to say about your big interview and lack thereof Kiwanis mention?
Yeah, well, I got a chance to interview on Pattern, which is the Weather Channel's national environmental program regarding my nonprofit I founded, Open Oceans Global. So we got, I don't know, I forget, 4 or 5 minutes, 7 minutes. I forget how long it was. Pretty good interview, just focused on what we're doing. So, and that was our first national interview. And I apologize for not remembering Kiwanis in my haste to get that. The funny part was, if I might take just a second, is that I wanted it to look good on TV, so I set up a whole backdrop, and you can see the backdrop here is like just blurred, my office, but I set it up in our family room, which has a big bookshelf, and put ocean books, behind it and all of that kind of stuff to make it look good. I guess I could have put a Kiwanis something in there, a K or something. I could have done that, but apparently I didn't. So I'll throw $20 in the pot for my omission. Thank you,
Carl. And I'm going to find myself. I was really, really sad to miss the Justin Time event last week. I'm so excited that Brittany's a member. I got to attend the 2 amazing just-in-time events that Gordon extended an invite to, and I'm just really moved by the organization. I loved hearing that. So as the San Diego Water Authority, I love seeing everybody, all this cross collaboration. It's just really becoming a smaller and smaller world, I feel like. And so I just wanted to throw in $10. Sadly, I was out of town, but I'm hoping that we can keep doing more events and looking forward to making the next one.
Well,
Yeah.
thank you, Karina, for calling Carl out, and congratulations, Carl, on such a large opportunity to get the word out about your organization. Jeremy, I think I cut you off. Did you have something to share?
Yeah, no, you can put me down for 10 as well, just for that just in time event, because that was a really amazing time to be able to be a part of that. And really I was kind of like, it was just like stars and good stuff in my eyes. I'm looking around going, man, this is so cool that we get to be a part of this with these young people. And to know, because you really don't know coming in as where we were, what their stories were or what was going on, fully in, but we're fully invested in helping them at this point going forward. And it was just amazing. The young man that I was with, Josue, I really didn't even know at first that he was a participant. I was, we were just kind of talking as friends, kind of like just kind of shooting the breeze. And then come to find out that he was the participant in the program. Really kind of made it really special as we were going through. Even though I was on the wrong team, that was totally okay. But I went forward, got in there. But the $10 comes from being able to finish the full processes. I was a shopper. They said that if I didn't want to, I didn't have to go to his apartment and help him at all. But I got the opportunity to take a van load over to his apartment, and that was really, a blessing for me to be able to kind of see that kind of full circle and get there and kind of congratulate him and extend that hand. Talking about Kiwanis and many other avenues we could help you, man. But going forward, just know you're not alone, and it's cool to see you at this part of your journey. So that was a really, I went away from the event really, really jazzed up for the whole day. So.
Aw, that's wonderful. Thank you, Jeremy. And thank you, Lauren, for bringing Tracy out. Looks like she was with us.
Yeah, I think Tracy's gonna join. I mean, Gordon will lose his mind if she doesn't. So, he's really invested in this and has made a big deal about it. So I think that, at this point she is, which is great. And then I'm gonna put $5 in because I had a presentation last week with a client and my computer was crashing. And so I used an old computer. But when I went on Zoom, the only background that it would pull up was a cheese background, a cheese shop. And that was from our cheese tasting during COVID. And it would not, that's all I can pull up. It wouldn't blur. It wouldn't do anything. It just had this cheese background. I'm like, my Lord. So I had the cheese background, the whole presentation, and it sparked a conversation about cheese. And we ended up figured, it was a good presentation. It turned out well. It figured prominently in what we did. But so I thank you, Kiwanis, for the cheese background from 2 years ago. So I appreciate it. It never stops giving.
Oh my goodness, that's funny. Oh, wow. All right, last call for Bill's Bucks. Anybody else have something they want to share? Okay, we're going to stay on time. Well, we're going to not stay on time, but we'll do the best we can. As mentioned earlier, we have a private tour of our speaker that presented at our morning meeting a couple of weeks ago. So if anyone wants to join, it's a free private tour. I mean, this is really an exceptional opportunity for you to tour the Midway with a very knowledgeable docent. July 1st, 8:30 a.m.
And there's going to be 2 docents.
Oh,
We have room for 20 people and the museum will not be open yet. It's just going to be us.
super exclusive. So Saturday, July 1st, get on the website and lock in your spot. And guests are welcome as well. So you can bring
Absolutely.
your spouse or your family member or friend, what have you. So again, we are so proud of having the Midway here in our own hometown of San Diego. Just a real tribute to the military site that we are. And then coming up after that, our networking event at Skydeck in Del Mar Highlands. If you haven't been there, it's really cool. July 13th, North County, let's show up. All right. Another private tour of San Diego Children's Discovery Museum in Escondido, July 17th at 10 a.m. Another exclusive opportunity to see one of the amazing programs we have in San Diego, and an entity that the Kiwanis has supported through our scholarship, or rather our grants program. So again, a private opportunity.
Yeah, this is on a Monday and the museum is not open on Monday. So it's just going to be us, and we're encouraging you to bring your, I think I wrote your children, your grandchildren, and your inner child.
Awesome. We are hosting the Division Council meeting, the DCM, on July 19th. That means we need some items for the auction, or the raffle tickets. Yeah. So y'all have something, you have a gift certificate somebody gave you, you're like, oh, I haven't been able to use this, donate it. Or, you know, some tchotchkes. I mean, nothing like too terribly used. Let me say it that way. We prefer a new tchotchke, but it is a great way for us to help support Kiwanis at the Division Council level. They sell the raffle tickets and then people win great prizes. And so please donate, get the items, maybe coordinate with Judith to see how she can get them to the DCM meeting. But please, you know, if everybody could help put in, we'd really appreciate that. Any questions about that, by the way? Okay. And then July 23rd, of course, our friend Joe at Boys to Men, there's the Caddy Hack Golf Festival. You have an opportunity to volunteer. Judith, do you want to touch on that?
Yeah.
You probably know a
So
little bit.
we're going to be setting up the course the night before. And that means that on the July 23rd in the morning, you can go golfing and support the organization in two ways. So the service project the night before, and then participate, and it's a fundraiser the day of.
Oh, nice.
And then, of course, another networking event to mark on your calendars, August 10th. We're going to be at Aquarius. You know, Karina, you're the keeper of all networking sites. What do you know about Aquarius Bar and Grill?
Oh, it's so fun. I was really thankful that Ryan Callan introduced me to this place because it's a little hidden gem. It's been around forever. They will most likely have live music, in which case Jay Jeffcoat will get everyone that's there to start dancing. And we're also going to be doing a journal drive for traveling stories. Emily Moberly, our new member, has said that one of the biggest needs they have for prizes and for their readers is journals. And so if you go on the event, I also put a link to their Amazon wish list. So you can, like, if you have no idea what kind of journal, but that's one of the biggest needs. And they're always looking for prizes too. So if you have an Amazon gift card you're looking to spend and want to donate some prizes to Traveling Stories, all of that is in the event details for August 10th.
Cool. Where is Aquarius Bar and Grill? What part of town?
It's
I don't think that's any of your business.
Oh, wow.
It's kind of like in between Point Loma and Mission Beach. It's in a very random, right, kind of over by SeaWorld is the best way to put it.
I
It's
know
like
where
on
it
the
is.
other side. It's just west of SeaWorld.
I used to live there. I used to live on a sailboat right there, so I know exactly where it is.
Well, Wendy, I hope you come.
Yeah, I will. It's the one thing I'm in town for. It's, if anyone knows where the Marina Village is.
Yeah.
Okay, it's just keep going past Marina Village, and it's that's
Okay.
where it is. And there's plenty of street parking, and it's an amazing place. And it's really cool. If you get there early, you can walk along the water, along the sailboats and stuff. And there's many ways you can go to it, depending which direction you're coming from. But just it's where if you were going to the Islandia, instead of making a right to the Islandia, you make a left on Corvera Way and just keep going. It's going to be there on the right-hand side. It's a great venue.
Awesome. Okay, we'll see you there, Wendy. August 10th. And then, of course, everyone should have this on their calendar. August 15th, Betsy Brennan is our guest speaker downtown at our location at Park and Market, 7:30 a.m. It's also going to be our annual meeting where we do some, does everyone agree? you know.
I think Susan wants to retire as president. So yeah, we probably should help her do that. So yeah,
President for life, Susan Day.
yeah.
You are probably sorry you even mentioned my name before I got into this
No.
position.
No.
But please come out. It's going to be a really special day for us to hear from Betsy. Again, Gordon, his connections has made this possible, and I think it's just so important for us to commit to being there, and then of course for our annual meeting. So if again it isn't on your calendar, it should be, and please register, because depending upon the size turnout we have, we may need to move rooms while at our Park and Market location, and we want to make sure that our we can convey that information to UCSD. I think that's it. Oh, but wait, there's more. Star Pals, back to school. Can you believe it? It's June and we're already talking about back to school, but we want you to consider volunteering. This is the annual backpack distribution event. Judith, do you
Yeah, and
wanna...
we're actually gonna be handing the kids the books. So that's what they told me, Karina, that we are gonna be handing out, we're distributing. We actually, so maybe not a backpack, but a book.
Oh, perfect.
We'll pass something out as long as it's not a 20-pound box of canned food like it was last year and everyone hated us. We're good. So yeah, no, it'll be great. And it's a really fun event. And I really recommend if you haven't been to a Star Pal event, all the law enforcement is there. So if you have any questions for your local PD, now's the time to come on out. But no, it's great. And we haven't seen Claire in a while, but I know she'll be there. So if you want an excuse to say hi to Claire, definitely mark that on your calendar.
And this is our last slide.
Okay. End of year member celebration. Again, something that should be on your calendar. September 19th, we'll be at the University Club downtown, 4:30 to 6:30. Bring friends. Be there or be square.
We have DJ Jeremy, Captain Jeremy, and we're going to be doing a skit with Frisco and Kraus and some other friendly friends. So you be on the radar if you get a call from me that you're playing a role. We're going to make it really fun, not just like another boring installation event. And we have a lot of really exciting things that our members are celebrating this year. So if you have anything that you haven't shared with Judith yet, please let us know, because we're just going to be firing up everybody's engines on how really cool all of our members are and what a great diverse group we have, and get ready for the new year.
Well, I'll say that because of Karina's energy and creativity, we've never had a boring installation, not in the time I've been involved. So thank you, Karina, for always putting so much effort into it. It makes it fun and just something to remember always. All right,
Yeah,
we have
and
gone
it's at the University Club, which is a very nice, very fun venue. So I really hope that you bring all your plus ones to celebrate.
Yeah. All right, folks, we've gone a little bit over, but thank you for sticking with us. We have, again, a wonderful guest speaker. Thank you, Jessica, once again. And shoot off any questions you have for her. Some follow-up questions. Sounds like she'll be very responsive to our inquiries. And then we'll see you in just a couple weeks.
Yes,
Park and
thank you again
Market.
for having me. And don't hesitate to reach out with questions.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Okay, bye.